right, go ahead.
It's on, Dan.
All right.
It's all you.
I'm okay. I'll
Jokes.
pick this up.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Green. How are you?
All right. So obviously you guys already know me. Name's Jesse Green, school counselor here at the high school. And before I get started, I just want to provide.
Sorry, last question. If she doesn't take the PSAT, she's not in trouble with the school.
Not in trouble with the school, no penalty for college, there's no negative effect academically.
Okay, because that was the parents' concern. As long as she's not in trouble.
Not in trouble with school.
All right, I guess she'll be hanging out in the counseling office today.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay. Little disclaimer. So there's a theme across professional development and professional learning opportunities amongst people who attend those sessions. And the theme, I guess you could call it, is, you guys have probably heard the phrase sit and get. Sit and get. Have you heard that before?
No.
So sit and get. Have you ever experienced a time where you went to a professional learning session and you were like, you walked in, 50 to 100 people, it's a huge room, you're like, oh, here we go. This is gonna be a long day. You sit down at the table, across from you, your supervisor, to the right of you, your principal, and it's like, this is gonna be an even longer day. You look up at the PowerPoint, you see the topic of discussion. It's like, oh crap. The next 5 hours I'm gonna be sitting here looking at this, listening to somebody talk about a PowerPoint that has nothing to do with what I do for my job. In those type of sessions, you basically sit and get. You're mandated to be there. You have to be there. You're required. So there's no opting out. With that being said, I'm hoping to do the opposite. I'm hoping you want to be here and you enjoy the session today. But with that being said, if you feel like the information that I'm providing is not relevant to your position, you can get up and walk out. Don't get up now because I just started. But you can get up and walk out. If you have a question, obviously feel free to raise your hand. If you have a concern, feel free to raise your hand. But at any point, I don't want you guys to feel like you have to be here. So if you feel like your time is better spent somewhere else in the hallway on a silent PSAT day, then feel free to get up and step out. All right? So most of you, obviously, you know me. You've been working with me for a little while. But one thing you may not know about me is probably for the past 12, 13 years, every career opportunity that I've had has been basically like a brand new experience for me and for the program that I'm working for. So it's like the program may have started I worked for a program that started in New York, they brought it down to PG County. So it was brand new to the county. So my job was to evaluate and reflect on the program that they were providing in New York and see how it would work for the students and the clients in PG County. Every other position that I've had, probably since I was like 20 years old, has been the same thing. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert in the field of evaluating programs, but I feel like what I've done and what I've found out has worked. So I'm hoping that I can teach you guys those tools today so that you can also feel comfortable with evaluating our program here at the school. So, hence, evaluating the LCHS school counseling curriculum. Again, the tools that I'm providing today don't specifically go towards just evaluating our curriculum. It can go for any program. The tools that I provide today are not just for today's session. I'm hoping that we can continue to use these tools as we move forward throughout the school year. Because the end result is we want to do what's best for our students, and we want to make sure that our program, the things that we have implemented are working for the population that we have and the community that we're working with. Aside from that, I selected this after having conversations with some of you all, having conversations with teachers, having conversations with students, and of course working on RAMP, which I'm sure you guys love to hear. I love RAMP. For those of you who do not know what RAMP is yet, it's a recognized ASCA model program. And it's introduced to enhance our school counseling curriculum and our school counseling program. For the past 2 years, we've been working on this. As you know, every time I say RAMP, you're like, get me out of this room. But you've actually been doing a lot more than you guys even know. So today I'm gonna show you what you've actually been doing and show you how simple it can be. So what does this look like? The question we want to ask ourselves is, how do we determine whether the initiatives we currently have in place are meeting the needs of most, if not all, students? All the steps you learned today will focus on this question. From personal accounts, which can be supported by research, we know that effective school counseling programs are important to the school climate and are a crucial element in improving student achievement. The purpose of today is to learn how to develop just that, an effective and efficient school counseling program that meets the needs of our students and supports their academic achievement, college and career readiness, and social and emotional development. So that's why you see the little charts on the page. And I took into account, what was it? What was the statement you said yesterday? Yeah. I took into account what was said yesterday. I was up until about 2 o'clock this morning trying to think of a way not to do
The walk.
think, pair, share.
Think, pair, share. Gallery
So I was trying to think of a way, because I'm trying to, better understand my audience. So I tried to adapt it so that it's not just the think, pair, share, oh crap, we have to do that again. So I tried to adapt it a little bit, so I'm hoping you all work with me on this. This is going to be more interactive than not. You guys know me, so I'm not going to sit up here and talk.
And this is where the first recording was interrupted as the cell phone decided to shut down. But what I asked of the participants is to think about, is to review the first step, which is reflect. They were asked to think about conversations that they've had with parents, teachers, students, and community members. They were asked to think about what comments have the people made, what concerns have they addressed, and to dig even deeper, I wanted them to discuss what changes they've seen happening in the community since they've joined the counseling field, because some counselors that were participating had been there over 10 years, some even close to 20, and there were a few new counselors who you will notice were quieter throughout the session, but they were asked to reflect as well. Instead of doing the think, pair, share, I decided to have them reflect by writing down their response or their thoughts on a sticky note, and then placing the sticky note in the areas that our core curriculum addresses. So whether it be social and emotional, academic, or college and career readiness, they were asked to place a sticky note in one of those 3 categories. Of course, if a topic related to more than one, they could write down more than one and place it in each category. This activity lasted about 3 minutes, and then we went on to discuss their reflections for about 3 minutes. The next step, which you'll see in the video, we moved on to a reflection of not our personal experience, but a reflection of the student climate survey from last school year, 2017-18 school year, and related those to our reflections. So you'll see that coming up next.
All right, it's back on.
Sorry about that.
All right. Little intermission period.
All right.
So what I did was focus on the 10th, 9th, and 10th grade because those were areas of concern. Some of the things that we addressed within our school climate survey for the student section was student support, rules and expectations, student relations, bullying, and student engagement. The first area of concern was student support. So the statement was, adults in the school treat students fairly. 71% of 10th grade students agreed, 79% of LCHS students overall, and 75% across the board. So that's not terrible, but it's still an area to keep an eye on. Good behavior is noticed. So this area, this percentage is low even across LCPS. Good behavior is noticed at my school, and this could be compliments or tickets. 44% of 9th grade students, 47% of 10th grade, 50% overall, and 57% across LCPS. So again, relating these comments to our curriculum, is there an area that we're missing within our curriculum that we could implement to help benefit this area and help improve the student response? Second area of concern was mainly with 10th grade, but it was student relations. So is there something within 10th grade that we're missing? Students are kind to each other. 62% of 10th grade students agreed, 72% overall, 71% across LCPS. So that's a huge disparity. Again, what are we missing? Students in my school respect differences in other students, for example, where they come from, what they look like, if they're a boy or a girl. 64% of 10th grade students, 71% overall, 71% across LCPS. Most students at the school treat other students with respect. Again, 10% difference. Yeah, so there's something going on in 10th grade that I feel like we're missing, but again, after reviewing the curriculum, we can determine whether or not we are actually missing something.
Is that 10th grade from last year or current 10th graders?
Last year.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Current 11.
And my concern with addressing these areas is because, again, if these concerns are in 9th grade, are they gonna move to 10th grade, 11th and 12th, and then our overall percentage decreases? Not only that, not just the percentage, but the students. Like, we want them to have a comfortable, safe environment at the school. And if they're feeling like we're missing areas, we need to do something about it to address those areas of concern. So bullying, I've stopped other people from bullying when I've seen it at school. 45% of 9th grade students agreed, 57% overall, 55% across LCPS. Again, that number is very low.
Like that bullying one, that's so hard. That data is interesting because people could have not said they've stopped bullying because they might not have seen it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
Was
a
it an
tricky,
option? I wonder if there was an option of,
not applicable or whatever.
And obviously,
that could make a difference.
with data, numbers can kind of play with your mind a little bit, but just looking at it, it's like, is there something we can do to address that area? So that's what we want to think about in relation to what we have listed here as well. So step 2, we move on to project. This is more about forward thinking. So what I want you to do is ask yourself, what changes do you project moving forward? Even in the past few years, we've had more mandates than ever when it comes to the unified mental health team and all these other professional development sessions we have to attend. We have implemented, technology, the one-to-one initiative. Do you guys foresee things continuing to change that are going to impact our position? If so, what can we do to address those issues within our curriculum? So again, we're going to do a quick sticky note.
So is this the evaluation now?
This is project.
Project.
So step 2, project.
Hope you didn't get that on video.
We did.
so we're
So reflect, project.
what
Projecting.
things we think are gonna continue to,
What things we think are going to happen in the future that are going to impact our curriculum that we currently have.
some of them will be the same.
You also want to think about changes in the community. We have a neighborhood going in across the street. We have another one going in down the road. This morning at Food Line, I noticed there's another neighborhood going in behind there. So is population demographics going to change? And again, we're looking at the 3 categories that our curriculum addresses: academic, college and career readiness, and social and emotional development. More seconds. So what things do we come up for as social and emotional? socioeconomics disparities. Eric, what does that say? Growing environment?
Enrollment.
For enrollment, I'll read them. Addressing mental health, socioeconomic disparities, boundary changes, anxiety, response time. That was mine. I think more and more people are going to want like a quick response. Like I emailed you, you need to get back to me. Like that type of. That was pretty much mental health, or emotional, college and career options for students not going to college, college applications and transcripts, increased tier colleges, more documents sent electronically, self-reported grades and tests, similar stuff, electronically college. Academics.
Hey guys.
Hey, how are you?
We're recording.
May I borrow you for just a moment? I have a
Sure,
parent
go on.
email that I need
Yep, come on in.
clarification on before.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All of
I
us
just
need
like
one
after
person.
just Kathy.
Okay.
I win.
She's the winner.
And
I'm
then,
the winner.
and then academic is that increase.
Increase AP enrollment honors courses.
And I said decrease rank in GPA. I think that's hopefully eventually where we're going. Tech issues and
Responsible use of.
responsible.
like,
Oh,
technology.
that's actually cheat like turning.com, like that type of stuff. So they're
That
cheating.
kind of stuff, and then the issues where like we didn't have with that Gaggle.com
Yeah.
where the kids are put
Yeah.
inappropriate searches and things like that.
yeah.
It's like flagging, and that's like where things. I had 2 yesterday, and we're having that like every week.
Yeah, and increased enrollment.
Okay. So again, thinking about those concerns that we have, how do they relate back to our curriculum? Just keep that in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had a chance to reflect. We've had a chance to project.
Oh, there's us. That was last Wednesday.
And now we have a selfie
Kathy's
of us
first
up on the
classroom.
screen. So I found this video. I think it's really interesting. It's only 2 minutes long, but it covers basically what teaching in education used to look like, what we could foresee. So it's kind of, not just our beliefs and what we're seeing when we reflect and project, but we're seeing what everybody else is seeing as well. And I think you all will find it pretty interesting as well. So, if I can get the word.
I've heard people quote YouTube and you see their previous searches. It's like One Direction.
They'll dig it in. Well, I don't have any of that, but.
Hope so.
And again, technology decided to cut out, and we had to revert back to a discussion. So nobody caught it this time, and the session continued for another probably about hour. So after the video, we discussed or first of all, the video shows us how education has changed and will continue to change moving forward. So it kind of covers the both reflect and project stages. It doesn't just show us what our personal opinions are, but it shows us what education looks like across the globe, and how it can impact our positions. I asked the question, what does what do these changes mean for us as school counselors? And I wanted the participants to compare the video to the responses that they made in their reflect and project stages. I asked, are there similarities or differences? And I wanted just an overall group discussion. The participants are more apt to have a discussion, first off, without camera and not being front and center. So it was a little quieter today. But when one person throws an idea, it seems to make the others feed onto that, and they continue to have the discussion. So we did initially start with the topic of technology and how most of what was shown in the video is how technology has impacted education. But then we also addressed areas of, career readiness and how, job titles from 2012 were not even available in 2002. And for us being school counselors and us trying to prepare our students for college and career and advise them as best we can, how can we advise them if we don't know what to expect? One of the participants brought up, for example, cybersecurity and how that's, just changed the way we work and how it changed the way we advise, because there are so many positions in Northern Virginia and there's so many uses for cybersecurity and government specialists, some even offering 2-year degrees. It changes the way that we advise our students, and also cybersecurity being a technology degree and not needing a high level of math changes the game for a lot of students who had always wished to participate in a technology degree program and were unable to just because they struggled with math. So these were all areas of discussion. What you see in this image is our reflect and project stages. So the right side you'll see is reflect. That's where they put down what they were thinking when I asked those initial questions. The left side of the screen you'll see is project. And then the third stage, which we'll move on to next, is evaluate. So as we move on to the third step, which is analyze, not evaluate, I looked into the audience to gauge where they were and if they were still involved in the session, and it was determined that even though I thought, maybe they were looking like they wanted to move on and just finish with the session, when I made mention to that, they actually said, no, this is actually really good for our program, and we're quiet, but our minds are racing, so we would like to continue to discuss and, analyze our student services calendar and core curriculum and compare it to, their reflection and projection. And so that's exactly what we did. We went through the chart that you had used throughout the session, and we pulled off stickies that were excluded from our student services calendar and core curriculum, and we placed them in the midsection, which you'll see the image at the end, which is the analyze stage and evaluation stage. We placed them there because those are target areas that we want to discuss moving forward, and we want to incorporate into our curriculum to better meet the needs of our students. So the discussion initially started with main areas of concern, such as not just technology, but there was a lot of other areas, such as not just technology, but there was other areas of concern, such as, of course, mental health will always be one, but we also focused on 2-year colleges and providing opportunities to students who don't plan on going directly to a 4-year institution. We wanted to provide more opportunities for students to learn about scholarships, because we don't feel like we produce enough information and provide that to students for them to be able to do that, or to be able to have the resources to research. We talked about other options rather than just attending four-year institutions, and all of these fell under the college and career focus. One of the counselors made mention to that, if these three categories weren't provided, the academic, college and career, and social and emotional, he said that he really would have just focused his entire thought process on mental health, because it seems like that's the only thing we do in our job, and he didn't realize the other areas that we should be covering. And he felt like this exercise was a great way to refocus his energy on areas of need, and areas of student growth and opportunity. So the discussion about the alternative options other than college after high school was brought up. And then lastly, under social and emotional, we talked about resilience and how college professors are saying our students are graduating and they're not resilient. College professors are nervous about giving bad grades because students are saying, their mental health is not stable enough, and they're saying I can't get a B minus, I need an A, and if I don't get an A, this might happen. So college professors are nervous about the responses that the students are giving. So how can we teach our students to be more resilient? The conversation lasted probably about 15 minutes, which was a great time. There was way more input than I initially expected, because of the demeanor of the group, but they appeared to get more comfortable as time went on, and as more people started to talk, others chimed in, and overall it was a great discussion, and I believe it will continue as we move forward, as even a few days later we've already started to initiate certain areas of growth within our curriculum, and I feel like everybody's kind of jumped on board and feels more confident, and when it comes to evaluating and analyzing our core curriculum, so it seems like it was a good benefit for everybody. This image depicts some of the content that was discussed during the analyze stage. Basically, I asked them, so what now? We've reflected, we've projected, we're now at the analyze stage. You have our student services calendar and core curriculum in front of you. Are you overwhelmed? Most of them, no. They felt good, and they were down for a discussion, as I mentioned previously. These are some of the questions that were asked as we move through the discussion, and I made sure to mention that they should always keep in mind that we're not going to be able to address the areas of need for all students all the time. We have to remember that we focused on as many students as possible and address areas of concern as we see them, as we discuss them, and of course with the projection we want to make sure we're kind of staying ahead. But it doesn't mean that we're failing if we're not addressing those needs immediately. So it's important that they remember that it's a learning experience, it's a growth experience, and you can't always keep up with changes. So I made sure to mention that. After we evaluated our curriculum, again, I just wanted to depict an image of what the process kind of looked like. We have the academic for the final thoughts, I just wanted them to be aware that, there's no reason to be afraid or be concerned with change. A lot of people, when they think of change, they think of, oh, here we go again. I just wanted them to know that it's important to not be afraid of change and be accepting of change, and to lean on one another when you have an idea but you don't know how to quite implement it. I reinforced the importance of us being a team to support our students, and I wanted them to remember that, and this is supported by research, effective school counseling programs are important to the school climate and are a crucial element in improving student achievement. A lot of people, and I made mention to this, a lot of people don't realize, as a school counseling department, what it entails. They don't realize until they come into our space. And, I made an example of, recently we've had a lot of substitutes coming in as in a secretary position while we worked on hiring somebody, and, even police officers that come in and they sit down, even for 5 to 10 minutes, and they say, I can't believe that this much goes on in here, because we are essential to the school community and school environment. The support that we provide through our curriculum, does help in improving student achievement, and there's data to support that as well. The next thing I wanted to address in my final thoughts is the use of data is important to support our curriculum development. Numbers can tell us a lot, even though sometimes they can, be a little tricky. The overall consensus is that they can tell us a lot about our curriculum, whether we're succeeding or, whether there's room for improvement in certain areas. And even when students aren't speaking, parents aren't speaking, staff aren't saying anything, we can pull data by doing a quick survey to see if we are helping improve, overall student outcomes and, school climate, the improvement of the school climate. Lastly, I wanted to mention that the evaluation process, the reflection process should be continuous. I said that basically this process does not stop here. In everyday conversations, one of the counselors earlier in the session made mention to the fact that, he was curious about what the students thought, and, with that little data that provided earlier in the reflect stage from the students, he didn't reflect on that. He also said that it'd be a good idea to bring them in, and I said, it is important to have them part of the session, but one thing you want to think about is the discussions you've had with them, you've had with your colleagues, you've had with parents, you've had with community members. Those are all taken into consideration when we're coming back and planning our core curriculum. So remember that even though they're not sitting here in our session giving us direct feedback, they are giving us feedback in other ways, whether it be data, whether it be one-on-one conversations, or just things you hear in the community. So you want to keep your eyes and ears open moving forward. To wrap up the session, basically I just ask if there's any questions, and I reinforce the fact that this is a continuous learning process, and the conversation should be continuous. There's always opportunities to reflect, project, and analyze our curriculum. So moving forward, let's continue this discussion. And, the last slide or last image depicts, what the end result was, and that was us hanging this whole thought process and this whole workshop up on our whiteboard. And unfortunately the sticky notes didn't all stay put, but we'll work on something a little more finalized and make sure that it's up there for all to see, and to make sure in our meetings we're continuing this discussion moving forward. My overall projection of the session went a lot better than I expected. From what I could tell from the group, they really appreciated this session, and they really got a lot out of it. The director even mentioned how impressed he was by the workshop and how it helped in organizing his thoughts and it kind of reinforced the importance of developing a strong curriculum and the importance of being accepting of change, because there's a lot that has happened, in the past even 5 years, and the stronger our core curriculum, the stronger our students are, academically, social, and emotionally, and when it comes to college and career readiness. So the session ended very well.